One of the basic measurements we take, one of the very first measurements we take, is whether the hips are elevated or not. Go and slip your shoes off for me. All right? So I'm going to have you face this way first, and then I'll have you guys see too as well here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start lateral here. And this is what we're going to be learning for the rest of the day, is palpating first. First, we're going to see what's going on, then we're going to feel it, then we're going to measure it. And this is the process that we're going to learn. So I start lateral. Even when I go lateral, what do you guys see? See how much higher that right is? Mm-hmm. So I go into here, right there. Look at that. Yep. See how much higher that is? Mm-hmm. Now, this device, called the Postural Assessment Tool, this is the one I have a patent on, and the software system that we'll be explaining here shortly. But basically what we're going to be learning is having it be a part of your hands, right? It's got the digital level on it, and it allows us to then go and do the same thing. So we just palpate with it, get on those two landmarks right there, let it fall, and she's about 5.5 degrees high on her right hip. All right? Now, one of the things we're going to talk about in length is how does this relate to planes of motion, three-dimensionally? Because that's how the body works, doesn't it? We can either rotate, we can either flex, extend, or we can laterally move. And there's muscles that primarily do that and secondarily. But these are the ways that our bodies can move in 3 dimensions. So when you're statically holding yourself, the question that we have to ask, and what we're going to spend the whole rest of the afternoon talking about, is what plane are you deviating away from? What plane are you compromising because of your static misalignment? It's going to be drilled into your head, Phaedra. You will dream 3 planes.
Like you?
You're going to be floating in 3 planes. Okay? So let me give you an example of how we get rid of this. Go ahead and get on your back for me. Bend your legs, arms out. Okay, we're going to do that crossover stretch. So ankle to the knee, take it down to the floor, push this knee away, and relax your arms and just hold that. This is called a piriformis stretch crossover. It works in the transverse plane because when she's standing, she's elevated. That elevation compromises my ability to rotate effectively from my spine to my pelvis. It's no different than having a tire and an axle like this. A tire and an axle has to have a right angle relationship. Same thing with the back and the pelvis. If the pelvis is not level, the spine cannot rotate evenly. So from a static point of view, from a structural point of view, we have to then stretch out or strengthen, depending on what it calls for, those muscles that are responsible for holding the pelvis correctly in that plane. So all we're simply doing here is rotating the pelvis from the torso to stretch out all what we call the oblique, transverse oblique muscle groups, okay, which are primarily responsible for pulling your hips up. Now, here's what I want you guys to get away with, or get away from, not away with. That would be completely different. I want you to get away from thinking specific muscles. This is one of the hardest things that I have to do when I teach these seminars. Because why? Because what do we learn in school? All we focus on are the individual muscles, aren't we? We're trying to release the psoas. We're trying to release the QLO. We're trying to release this. We're trying to release. Muscles act as groups, guys. They don't act individually. They work in groups. That's why we work in planes, because planes defines the group of muscles as they act together, not individually. No individual muscle is going to cause a misalignment. It's the group of muscles that cause misalignments. So you can't pinpoint the psoas as being your issue. You can't pinpoint the hamstring as being your issue. If I hear somebody who has knee problems say, oh, my PT told me I had to strengthen my VMO. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to scream. Because there's more than just the VMO for the knee that causes that knee to track incorrectly. It's not just that. It's everything else that causes that to react. Okay, rotate back out. Square your feet up. Switch. Take the left over. Push the knee away. Look the other. There you go. Hold that right there and breathe through it. Is this painful?
I'm stiff today for sure.
Okay, but does it feel good?
It feels good, yeah.
Yeah. And again, we'll get into all this later. But the primary source or the primary process of symmetry is to take the measurements to see what deviations override the others. Therefore, which ones do we address first, second, third, fourth, fifth? And it's all a planal algorithm, okay? But typically a routine starts off with stretching because we have to release the muscles that are compensating for a weakness or imbalance somewhere else in the body. Now think about most of the other treatments that we get. It's almost all releasing, isn't it? Think about it. And again, this is not a put down or a criticism. It's just an observation. If you get chiropractic, what do? We get released. If we get a massage, what do? We get released. If we have acupuncture, what do? We get released, correct? Get off the table, you go home, then what do? Nothing. So what's going to stabilize that treatment? And it's not that the treatment was bad. They're very effectual. I get acupuncture done all the time. I get adjusted once a month. But my point is, what's going to maintain that? Nothing, because you go back to your own dysfunctional life again. So we have to put in tools and processes that somebody can easily do at home, in between treatments, in between yoga sessions, right before yoga sessions. Get them to maximize their potential as a body. Okay, rotate back out. Okay, go ahead and stand back up. Okay, go ahead and face this way right here. So now I come out, come right at the ledge, and look what her hips are doing now. You see that? So just by doing one silly little stretch, we can take the body from a 5.5 degree elevation to a 0.6 in 2 minutes. This is my party trick. Here's the thing about symmetry. There's a pretty good 99% predictability rate in terms of what exercise corrects what. That's the beauty of it. You just need to know which ones to do in what order, period. It's as simple as that. But if you can get a release just like that, then the question is, well, how long are you going to hold it? Well, you're not. That's why we followed up with the other planes and we stabilize it and we stretch something else and whatever. And then you go home and you do it. And then a week to 2 weeks later, you come back, we see how the body's changed, and then we give you another set of exercises based upon the new measurements. So it's all quantified and it's all specific to that individual. As long as you do the work, and that's always the question, right? Well, that's why we created the software, and that's why we're creating a new one. Because we want the process to be so streamlined that it's not only easy for you guys to implement, but it's easy for your clients to do. And I've already proven in 15 years that they do it. They'll do it. We just want them to make sure they do it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So that's it.
Good.